Hey guys, it's Amy Shores, Director of Pastoral Care at Methodist Family Health, and I wanted to come to you this morning just to share some scripture and a little word of encouragement. So this morning I was reading in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 16 through 18. It's kind of what caught my attention first. And it says, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." And that scripture has been an important one to me since college. I had the opportunity at the end of college to go on a mission trip for about 3 weeks to Africa. And it was very cool. It was just kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I went with some friends. But toward the end of the trip, it just kind of got difficult. We were kind of sleeping out, kind of in fields and in tents, and we were surrounded by animals, and we had been around the same people for about 3 weeks, and so that was kind of wearing, and it was just kind of nerve-wracking. Just all of the new environments and being away from our comfort zones. And I mean, we were all in our early 20s, late teens, so it was just a lot. And so one night we were kind of laying in bed and doing our devotional before we went to bed, and one of us read this scripture, and we just dramatically, as sometimes late teens do, we just kind of clung to this verse, and we were talking about how, what we were doing was going to earn us an eternal glory, and that we could make it through, and we were using that to kind of give us strength. And I mean, yes, it got us through that mission trip, and we made it back, and it did give us some encouragement. Although I look back on that memory and that time, like I said, as a little dramatic. But if we look up in 2 Corinthians 4, right above that, in verse 7 and 8 and 9, I found some more encouragement for today. And it says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show us that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." This is another verse that I've heard before, this section of verses, but I think right now, as we are in a pandemic, and as a lot of us are looking at maybe going back to school or sending kids back to school, just all the unknowns that are going on right now, I think that this verse has an even more encouraging message for us today, because it acknowledges that, like, we are pressed in, we are perplexed, we are persecuted, we are struck down, but then it also gives us those positive reminders that yes, we're pressed, but we're not crushed, we're not in despair, we are not abandoned, we are not destroyed. And so even in the midst of this difficulty, even though we have so much going on with us that feels heavy and that is kind of hard to get through, it's a reminder that Christ is sustaining us, and that we can have kind of this negative and this positive existing together, and that He's going to continue to be with us and continue to be what we need to get us through this next little section. And so my prayer for us today is not necessarily that we will focus on the problems and kind of how downtrodden we are, but that we will hold those two things kind of in communion with one another. We will hold the difficulty and the lightness, the levity. We will find the good along with the bad, and that Christ will be able to use us in the midst of the situation, that He will continue to sustain us and be all that we need for Him to be for us, and that we can continue to be the light that He needs us to be to the world today.